This year isn't about a trophy. This year isn't about a placing. This year is about proving to people that what they saw in 2022 was only a fraction of what I can be. 2024 is about the year of redemption.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to the video. It is Monday, June 24th, and we are 5 days out from the second show of the season. So with that means that we are getting into peak week. We're actually just about to go into the last leg session of this whole prep, I guess, actually, which is absolutely wild to think about. So in today's video, I thought that I would touch on a little bit about some of the modifications that I make to training while going into a peak week to make sure that we are not only being safe, but also making sure that we are bringing the best package possible to the stage come show day. I think that a common mistake that so many people make is making too many changes to their training when it comes to peak week, and this is something that I definitely made the mistake of in the past as well. So I'm going to be breaking down some of the small changes that I make to my training during peak week, and we'll probably touch on cardio a little bit as well. But nevertheless, I'm going to go ahead, get some pre-workout in me, get warmed up, and then we will dive into things.
Okay guys, so first, before we get into the peak week training adjustments, we first have to ask ourselves, what is the purpose of peak week? Now, the purpose of peak week is not to build more muscle. The purpose of peak week is not to lose more fat. The main purpose of peak week is going to be to reduce fatigue and reduce inflammation so that we can bring the freshest look possible to the stage. So when people go making all these adjustments, going super high reps, super lightweight, doing all these crazy things, this is just counterproductive to what we are really trying to achieve during a peak week. So that's going to be the first thing, is kind of readjust your thought process for what is the actual purpose of peak week, and that is going to set up how we go ahead and make those adjustments into our training going into that final week. So the first adjustment I'm going to make to training in peak week is going to be a slight reduction in intensity. So I'm someone where I take the majority of my sets to failure. So what I will do during peak week is I will go ahead and just slightly reduce that and train anywhere between 1 to 3 RIR. So that's where I'm leaving anywhere from 1 to 3 reps in the tank at the end of my set. That will generally start around the 1 to 2 RIR at the beginning of the week, and then as we get closer to the show, that'll creep towards the 2 to 3, even sometimes 3 to 4 RIR, just to make sure that we are staying fresh and not pushing too close to failure. Because obviously the closer we push to failure, there's going to be a risk for injury when we are this lean and depleted. And then it's also just going to cause inflammation that is not necessary this close to the show. So today, for example, it is Monday. This is my last leg session. I'm training today in a 1 to 2 RIR, leaving 1 to 2 reps in the tank. And then as we get closer to the show, maybe Thursday or Friday, those workouts will be probably closer to the 2 to 3 or even 3 to 4 RIR to go ahead and make sure that we're not building up too much inflammation. Okay, the second adjustment I will make to training during a peak week is going to be a slight reduction in volume. Now, at this point in the prep, you have probably already come down to your maintenance volume. So volume is probably going to be relatively low at this point anyways. But on certain high fatiguing exercises, such as a hack squat, such as a leg press, I would go ahead and remove one of those working sets if you find that it causes you a very high level of fatigue. For example, normally I would do 2 working sets on the single leg press today, Today I'm just going to be doing one working set because I find that that's a very high fatiguing exercise for me. But otherwise, you shouldn't have to make too many volume adjustments because, like I said, if you were smart throughout your prep, you probably slowly tapered volume down to a maintenance level, so your volume shouldn't have to go much lower than that during your peak week. Just going ahead and strategically pulling one set here or there on some super high fatiguing exercises is going to be good to help mitigate that fatigue and aid in recovery. Okay, the third thing that I will do in regards to training during peak week is going to be try to keep my movement patterns as similar as possible. You don't want to go ahead and throw in some novelty exercise that you haven't been doing your entire prep because this is just a recipe for an injury. Just because your biceps are looking all shredded doesn't mean you should go throw in dumbbell bicep curls if you haven't done that your entire prep. So stick to the movements that you have been doing your entire prep. Play it safe, get a good stimulus, get a good contraction, get a good feel for the exercise, and play it safe. Okay, so the last thing with training in peak week is obviously we are not going to be training the day before the show. I think the best thing to do the day before the show is to just do a practice pump up. So whatever you're going to have backstage, whether that is dumbbells, whether that is resistance bands, go ahead and practice what you are going to do to get a pump before going on stage. I definitely made this mistake my first time going into the show, and I was kind of backstage and I'm like, what do I do? Should I do some lateral raise? Should I do some bicep curls? Figure out what muscles pump best for you, whether that's your chest, your shoulders, your back, your arms, whatever it may be, and figure out a routine for how you are going to get that pump backstage. So my show, for example, this week is going to be on Sunday. So on Saturday, I'm not going to train. I'm just going to do a practice pump-up session, see how long that takes me to get a good pump so that on Sunday, I know what I'm doing backstage and I'm not freaking out trying to figure out all these weird exercises to get a pump.
Alright guys, well that is going to conclude the last leg workout of this entire prep, which is absolutely wild to think about. So the last thing that I wanted to touch on a little bit was going to be cardio adjustments. Now this is something that is going to be very person dependent, because I think that if you are someone where you're not quite in shape, I still don't think that you should be hammering cardio going into peak week, because that is what I did in 2022 leading into my first show, and it just wasn't the play, because then my legs were really inflamed once I was on stage. So I think that realistically, if you're not in shape going into peak week, then your best bet is just going to be to try to set a date for a later show so that you have that time to be ready to go into peak week. One thing that I have learned, unfortunately, the hard way is that peak week is not magic. You're not going to lose extra body fat in peak week. You're not holding a layer of water and once I get rid of this water, it's going to get better. You need to be in shape going into peak week in order for these changes to actually have an effect. So that's going to be the first thing. Now, if you are in shape, you're going to want to go ahead and slowly start to reduce that cardio. If you are doing, 2 hours of cardio a day, you're going to want to go ahead and slowly taper that down. I would say all the way from 2 weeks out. That's what I did going into the first show, is that at about 2 weeks out, I cut out Stairmaster because that causes inflammation in the legs. I slowly reduced my cardio over time, and then come peak week, it realistically is just going to be steps. Like I'm just aiming for 12,000 steps today, which realistically for me isn't super hard to hit because I was hitting 18 to 20,000 when I was actually pushing for weight loss. So today, Monday, 12,000 steps, Tuesday will be 12,000, then Wednesday will be 10,000, Thursday will be 10,000, Friday will be 8,000, and then Saturday, the day before the show, will just kind of be whatever steps I accumulate throughout the day. So I'm slowly tapering those down to go ahead and reduce that inflammation. That is the biggest thing that is going to make the biggest difference in your physique in a peak week, is going to be reducing that inflammation, is going to be reducing that fatigue, especially if you are a natural lifter like myself, where we don't have certain substances to go ahead and help us mitigate that fatigue. This is going to be even more crucial, because that is the one tool that we do have that we can play. So make sure your nutrition is on point, make sure that your hydration is on point, make sure that your sleep is on point, and then do your best to mitigate that fatigue throughout the week. That is going to set you up for a successful carb load, and that is going to set you up for a successful look on show day, because it's going to make sure that you're not carrying as much inflammation, you're not carrying as much water retention, and that is going to make the biggest difference in your look come show day. But guys, that is going to do it for this video. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to drop a like on the video. I'd greatly appreciate it. As well, if you're new around here, make sure to hit that subscribe button, as well to turn on the little bell icon so that you don't miss out on any new videos. Other than that, I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.
Think of the long walk.